Hey friends, it's Corey from Hey Let's Make Stuff, and today we are talking glass tumblers. Specifically, we're going to press all of these glass tumblers in the PYD Life tumbler press. Now, I reviewed this press a while back. I'll link to that video, and I really like it. I've used it a bunch since that video, and it just continues to really impress me. Along with this press, PYD Life also sent me a bunch of glass tumblers. So I thought today we would just experiment. Let's play around and see how all of these tumblers turn out. So what did they send me? So we have a standard 20-ounce skinny tumbler here, but it's made of glass instead of metal. And they also sent me these other two sort of tall tumblers that are much narrower than the 20-ounce tumbler. So you can see here that it's just got a much smaller diameter, so we're going to have to swap out the heating element and the heat press to do those. Then they sent me two sort of mug steins. We've got a small one over here and a slightly larger one over here. As well as two sizes of can. That's kind of the shape. It's sort of like a soda can. I think this is 18 ounce and 13 ounce. These are really popular right now, so I'm really excited to press those. As well as this sort of mason jar shape that has a silicone lid and a place for a straw. You're also going to need transfers for your mugs. I'm going to print those out in Photoshop, and of course each one of these is basically a different size. So I'm going to link to all of those sizes in the description, but one of my tricks is that I always increase the print size 5 to 10% so that I have a little bit of wiggle room when it goes to trimming my transfers down. I found that if I print it at the size that the manufacturer recommends, a lot of times I end up with a little bit of a gap in the back, no matter how carefully I try and trim it. So if I make it just slightly bigger, I find that it gives me that little bit of wiggle room to make the transfer the exact size of the blank. You're also going to need some heat resistant tape. I really like the blue tape. It hasn't left any markings or anything on my tumblers. You're going to want to wipe down your tumblers with some alcohol and a cotton pad. A lot of times I'll say you can use a lint roller, but with the glass, because it can get so fingerprinty, I really recommend wiping down with alcohol and then trying not to touch the glass itself. I found this worked a lot better than the lint roller. You're also going to need some butcher paper to protect your press from the transfer. You're going to need some heat-resistant gloves so that you can not burn yourself, and then a heat-resistant mat. Let's talk about how to wrap our tumblers. So I've already wrapped 6 out of the 8 that we're going to do, but I wanted to show you guys how I wrap these two types of tumblers. So here we have that can shape, which has this tapered edge at the top and bottom, and then this is the 20-ounce tumbler, which is straight-sided. So if you've done any other kind of tumbler, you've most likely done one that's in a shape like this, so we'll start there. I've cut my transfers down to fit my blanks, and so I will start with this big one here, and what I do is I actually wrap the tumbler, or the transfer, around the tumbler like this. I like setting it on the table because then I can kind of get it even by pressing that bottom edge of the transfer onto the table. This one has an actual little glass lip here, so I don't really want to sublimate on that, so I've got this sitting right below that. As far as the seam goes, I would rather have a slight overlap than a gap. Ideally, you would have these line up perfectly and you wouldn't have either, but I always try to err on the side of caution and get that overlap just a little bit. You want to wrap that as tight as possible and then use a piece of tape to secure that first stretch here. So you can see that this is very, very tight and that overlap is right here. Now work your way down each side and tape as you go. I'm using my automatic tape dispenser here, which automatically cuts the tape for you as it goes, as you can see here. And then I'll go the other way, moving up. Here, you really want to pull that as tight as you can. All right, so now we have the tape running vertically down the side of our tumbler. The next step is to tape the top and bottom. So to do this, I cut a much longer piece of tape here. And I start on opposite the side where I have the seam. So in the center here, I start here. And what I do is I then kind of pull it toward that seam. So if there's any air or gap in there, it actually pulls toward the seam and then you can overlap it here. Do the same on the other side. There we go. So you don't want any kind of gaps or bubbles or puckering around your edge. Because this is a glass tumbler and it has this sort of glass lip, I'm not quite as worried about the ghosting because it's actually flat underneath. Hopefully, we'll see how this goes. I haven't actually pressed this type of blank before. So then once I do this, then I just press all of this in here, like this. Then I do the same thing on the bottom. Now this actually has a slightly tapered bottom here, so I do want to tape this with that long piece of tape again, working my way from the opposite side of the seam all the way around. There we go. And the same thing on this side. You can see that I've got a little extra there, so pull it as tight as you can. All right. So now, because there is a little bit of an edge here, you want to try and press this in as much as you can. Again, I start away from the seam and press all the way around like this, using my thumb, working toward that seam. Now, because of, you can see these little gaps here, you don't want those, so one of my tricks is to actually roll this on the edge of the table to try and smooth out some of those seams. This is a trick that I have found that has fixed, I don't know, 90% of my ghosting problems, and it's one I think you should try too. You can even see, well, I can see, I'm not sure if you can see in the video, that it really does smooth out a lot of that puckering. Just roll, roll, roll. If your top of your tumbler is tapered as well, has that little edge, you can do this at the top as well. So that feels really secure and very flat to me and looks like it's going to produce a good transfer. The last thing I do is I put one final long piece of tape across the entire seam, starting in the middle, just pressing it all the way down. So now this tumbler is taped and ready to go. The only thing we need to do is add butcher paper. So I've trimmed down a piece of butcher paper to fit. I usually try and tape it about where the seam is, here. And then I can pull it really tight. I find that no matter how tight I pull this butcher paper, it still tends to pucker just a bit in the press, but it doesn't really matter because it's just there to protect the press from the ink. Next we have this can design. So for this one, because it has these tapered edges on the top and bottom, the actual transfer image just goes in between those two. The nature of trying to put a flat object on a round object is very difficult, so this is just designed to sublimate from about here to here versus the entire can. So to wrap this one, you'll do the same thing, except you can't balance it on the table. So you'll need to just try and line it up looking at it like this. So you can see again, I've got this little bit of overlap. I hope it's gonna not sublimate too dark there. I guess that will be part of our test. And then add that center piece of tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and, like I did with the other one, just put a piece of tape top and bottom, really try and keep that tight. So you can see that I have the image just on the flat part of the can and not on the taper. So again, you can add a piece of tape all the way around the top. I like doing this as well. Just keep everything from ghosting or causing problems. Starting in the back, away from the seam, and working your way toward that seam. Pressing down as you go. This one I'm not quite as worried about. You just want to make sure that it's very flat on the glass. Let's add another little piece here. There we go. That's actually going to be really great. And then we'll do the same on the bottom. One piece of tape here. Starting in the back, and working my way forward, pulling it tight. All right, and then pressing that all in. Let's add a couple more pieces of tape here. And then I've got a little bit down here. I'm going to add another piece of tape there. I think this is ready to go. So let's add our butcher paper. Around, pull it tight, And this one is ready to go too. I've set the press at 360 degrees for 120 seconds, and all of these blanks are going to get double pressed. So because of the way that the tumbler press works, there will be like a slight part on the top that will not actually get sublimated. So we'll need to turn the blank in the press and then press again for a second time. I even do this on the blanks that have handles. I will tilt the handle one way, press, and then I'll just move it slightly the other way and press. That way I know that the image is sublimated close to the handle on both sides. The heat press is to temperature, so we can go ahead and put in our first blank. I've put on my heat-resistant gloves because that heating element gets very hot, and the way that you sort of need to, maneuver this in there gives a lot of chances for you to get burned. So I've got this in here sideways, and we'll close it here. The nice thing about the PYD Life tumbler press is that the second you close it, it starts counting down. You don't need to hit a go button or anything like that. And when it's done, it gives you a very strong signal for you to come and take your tumbler out of the press. So our next step is to actually turn our tumbler about 180 degrees and then press it again for that 120 seconds. I have pulled my tumbler out of the press and it's sitting here on my heat-resistant mat to cool because it's very hot. I'm not going to unwrap any of these until the end, but the nice thing about glass is that you can look inside and actually see the design. And a sublimation transfer is much more faded when you print it out of your printer, but the colors are really popping in there. So I'm excited to pull this paper off and see how it looks. I'm going to go ahead and press this second can using the same technique, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to adjust the heat press so that we can press these larger blanks. Okay, so I pulled that second mug out of the press, and now I want to adjust the press's pressure to be able to press these two mugs, right? So these are the frosted mugs with the handles. They are the same diameter, so I'll be able to press them with the same pressure here. So when I go in here to measure, I can see automatically that it's too tight right now. So I'm going to adjust these two handles here. You want to make sure that these two knobs remain the same distance apart so that you have even pressure all the way along your blank. Okay, that feels pretty good. So when you are pressing a mug with a handle, a lot of the instructions say just to press it once, but I like to press it twice because I feel like no matter what I do, I end up getting sort of a ghosted seam on one of the two sides. It's like I can't seem to get it completely centered in the press. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in once and tilt the handle just slightly toward the back, and I'm going to put it in a second time and I'm going to tilt the handle slightly toward the front. This should allow the entire image to sublimate and shouldn't leave me with any light edges here near the handle. So I'm going to let this run down the 120 seconds, and then when it's done, I'm just going to slightly tilt the mug toward the front of the press to try and get that other edge sublimated really well. Then I'll pull it out and I'm going to press this same mug. Then I'm going to reduce the pressure even more so that I can press this mason jar mug. It's really quite a large blank around, but it will fit in here because I've actually already done one. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one next. Then I'm going to let the entire press cool all the way because we want to switch out this heating element from the narrower heating element so that we can press these other three blanks that I've got over here. So let me press all of these blanks and then I'll be back to switch out that heating element. The heat press has been cooling for about 20 minutes. It's still a little hot, so I'm going to do this wearing my heat-resistant gloves, but if you let it cool, you don't need to do that. So let's put these on here. Now, to switch out the heating element, you can see that I've got the other one here. It's as simple as undoing all of these screws here at the top and pulling them all out. I've removed all the screws, so the next step is to actually unscrew this cable over here and pull it right out, and then put this back on. This is still a little warm. When you open the press, the heating element will come right out. So set that aside over here. Now I want to install this other heating element here. So just put it in there and you can close it up and it will fit right in there. Align it so that you can put the screws back in. And then one by one, go ahead and start screwing the screws back in. If you're having trouble getting any of the screws in, you can actually grab the heating element and sort of shift it around until it makes it a little bit easier to get these screws in. When you think you have all the screws tight, open up the press and try tightening them a little bit more. I've found that the way that the press opens changes the angle of all the screws, so you want to make sure that it's tight when it's open and closed. Turn your press back on and it will heat back up to 360 degrees. I'm gonna go ahead and press these other 3 blanks with the exact same process that I did with the other blanks, and then we're gonna come back for the final reveal. All of my blanks have cooled and they are ready to be revealed, and I'm really excited about this. I've gone through and already taken off a lot of the butcher paper and some of the tape, so you don't have to see me struggle with that because sometimes it can be a little bit fussy, but I haven't actually looked at any of these images yet, so this is the first look with me. One thing I wanted to say in the beginning that I totally forgot to say is that sublimation ink is transparent. And when you're putting a transparent ink on a transparent blank, you're obviously not going to ever have like a fully opaque, solid ink transfer. You're always going to be able to see through it, but that's one of the kind of joys of using one of these blanks, is seeing how the transfer reacts with the glass and the type of result you're going to get. Let's start with this mason jar mug. We have sort of a dark blue image on here, so we can pull it off here. And we can see that this has created a very, very pretty dark blue sort of transparent mug here. Can you see this? I think this is really pretty. I like the way that the light shines through, and because I use that method of turning my mug in the press a little bit, these edges are really crisp and it looks really good. All right, I like this one. All right, the second one is this small glass can. It had sort of a geometric watercolor shape on it. Let's see here. So this one's very light. It's hard to see some of those pink areas. Let's see if we hold it up to the light. Yeah, I'm not as thrilled with this transfer. I don't think that pink transferred quite as well. And the blue's a little bit light, but that could just be the transfer that I picked. Let's try this large mug. This one has a pink galaxy transfer inside of it. All right, now this one I'm already happy with. This one's a lot of fun. All right, so this is that pink galaxy transfer. I think this looks really good. This edge over here, I feel like I could have gotten a little bit more, but it also could have been the transfer itself. I do think there was a lighter part, so I don't actually think that's fading. I think that's actually just the part of the transfer. So I do like this one a lot. This would be really fun if you put like some, you cut out somebody's name or something like that in this. All right, next we have this can. This is the larger can, and this one has kind of a blue, purple, pink galaxy print. Oh, and I really like this one. I think that turned out really pretty. You can see just a little bit of a seam here, but overall, I think this one looks really fun. Next up is the smaller mug. This one had crystals all over it, so I'm kind of interested to see how this one turned out. Oh yeah, I actually kind of like this one. So it's very subtle, but it's really pretty. I like this transfer a lot. I'm probably going to end up using it on something else because I think it's pretty. You can see here all of the little crystal images. Very nice. All right, next up is the small tumbler. Now this one had that pink at the bottom, and the tumbler came that way, so I was kind of curious to see what it would look like when we put the transfer on it. Okay, I really like this one. This is my favorite so far. So you can see that that pink has created sort of a pinky purple, because this was all blue, and oh, it may have had a little bit of purple. Anyway, I just love this one. It looks like a great galaxy. That seam I did looks really good. I'm really, really happy with this one, and I'm definitely going to be using this one myself. That one's a lot of fun. Okay, next we have the slightly larger tumbler here. This one is sort of a lighter blue-green. Oh, this one I'm not quite as happy with, but I think it turned out, based on the actual image I had, I think the image was too light. I don't think this had anything to do with the blank other than the fact that my image was just not as poppin' as it needed to be. All right, we've got one more. This one had sort of other gemstones on it as well, but it's clear glass versus frosted, so let's see how that one turned out. Oh, again, this one's okay. I really think that the ones with the darker transfers look a lot better. Okay, so I have all of our results here, and I have to say that I think the frosted tumblers are my favorite. This one definitely is my favorite, and I'm going to be using it. I just love how that galaxy turned out. I do really like this mug over here that's clear glass. I think the trick is going to be using darker transfers on clear glass, because These transfers were kind of light, and while the effect is kind of cool, I feel like having a darker transfer, you would have gotten a much brighter image. If you have any questions about pressing glass blanks in a tumbler press, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to try and answer them. Also, make sure to check out the description because I have all of the sizing details for the transfer size that you're going to need for each of these blanks, plus where to buy, just in case you want to get any of them. I hope you found this test insightful and helpful when you're choosing your glass blanks. I'd love it if you'd hit subscribe for more weekly content like this post, leave a comment if you'd like, and I'll see you next time.